Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank all of the witnesses for being here this morning. It's been a learning process. I represent Northern Michigan. It's a mining district. We've had a lot of permitting problems in Michigan, and then frankly, we've had a legacy mining problem where we've been left with mines that have, damaged the environment, and I don't want to see that happen in the future. But it does concern me, the fact that it doesn't seem like all the data is in prior to a decision being made. And to me, I feel as if there is a bias against certain industries amongst the administration. I think the EPA tends to do that. In my district, we had a road that we tried to build a county road, and the EPA wouldn't give us a permit to do it, and the rules kept changing as the process went on, and it was evident that they just didn't want the road being built just because we complied with everything we could possibly comply with as far as mitigation of wetlands and all that sort of thing, and we just got a changing. We couldn't get the road done despite everything we did and overwhelming local support. So I understand that as well. Let me just follow up on something that Mrs. Williams said. Mr. Martella, Ms. Williams testified that there was numerous opportunities for public input in this process. Is that sufficient under the law, what occurred there?
I'd like to say at the outset, the more opportunities for public participation, the better. There's things the law requires, and you have to do that. That's the minimum. But the more EPA or the Army Corps says, come meet with us, stakeholder meetings, hearings, that's great. In my experience in the government as General Counsel of EPA at the Justice Department, I never once turned down a meeting to meet with anybody. I've visited over 24 Indian reservations. So the more public participation, the better. The tension, I think, what I'm seeing here, and some of these facts are new to me as well, is if I take the examples I've heard, for example, acid mine drainage, food security, those are obviously very legitimate concerns. I don't think anyone can deny that those are important, legitimate concerns. But what has happened here is EPA has basically prejudged the outcome of those concerns. The way the process is supposed to work is the Army Corps has a process under NEPA where it invites the full range of anybody who wants to share and address these issues. The Army Corps then looks at that from all perspectives, looks at alternatives, says, are there alternatives here that address food security, that address acid mine drainage? EPA is given an elevated role in that process. Congress specifically amended NEPA to give EPA a special seat at the table to talk to the Army Corps, to talk to the Interior Department, and to share its views. And EPA gets a higher level of review compared to other agencies. So there's absolutely a role for these binders. There's absolutely a role for EPA's views to come in. But I think the tension we're seeing is the process is not working the way it's supposed to, because instead of having the Army Corps make a decision on a level playing field where everyone has equal access, gets to talk about alternatives and say, here's how we'll address acid mine drainage, here's how we'll address food security. EPA is effectively shutting that off at an early stage, controlling, and deciding who has the scope of that information, preventing the Army Corps from making that decision, which appears to the public, I think, creates doubts about this being a preordained decision and prevents access to the process that, these various permittees are entitled to under the law.
Mr. Nugent, do you have any input on that question of preordained decision?
No, it's more the idea, and I totally agree with Mr. Martella, more and more community input. That's where the conversation really needs to take place. I know in our relationship is we would be working directly with the community to work on the issues, identify the issues, and it would be a unified step forward as much as we could. So that idea that if there's anything else, I would, if you got to file a permit, you got to move, you got to go forward. That's where we're at in our state is we're encouraged to move forward by doing the permit and the EIS. Hopefully that answers.
All right, thank you. I'll yield back the remainder of my time, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
Thank you.